With everything that's been happening in our world these days when it comes to policing, I felt like I had to talk about some of these issues here. Let me shut my screen down. Hopefully my signal's good. Yeah, I feel like I had to talk about some of these issues that are going on in policing. I couldn't let it slide. Way too much happening. Today in New York, they're having the funeral for the officer Rivera, one of the two officers that were gunned down during that recent domestic incident. And there was shooting in Houston, and two or was it two officers shot up in Texas, and man, just things are getting so bad here in our country. And it isn't new. It isn't like we haven't discussed these issues before. But I want to go a little deeper, if at all possible, and try to get to the root of what's causing all of this. Like what's going on here? What's the ultimate cause? So let me share with you. Let me share with you a video that I found that I thought was pretty interesting. Once again, I appreciate y'all stopping in and joining me today on your Friday afternoon, Friday evening, depending on when you're watching this. You could be doing all kinds of various other things, but you decided to join me, and I don't take that lightly. Not at all. So let me pull this up here real quick. See if we can get into this here. Just honoring the body of Officer Rivera. Man, I'm telling you, there's just something about everything that's been going on. Let me get out of this screen here. There's just something about everything that's been going on that's just really been hitting me kind of hard. I hope the connection's good. Let me know, y'all, because I'm showing that I don't have the strongest signal here. So let me know if you guys are getting if everything's going well. Yeah. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, there were three here, there were three not here. I don't live in Texas. There were three in Texas, and there's just so much going on, and I don't know what's going on. Why it seems to really be hitting me kind of hard, and I can't say more than ever because anytime we're dealing with cops who are getting shot or gunned down or whatever, it impacts me pretty severely. I remember one time in my own area command station that I patrolled, there was a shooting that took place, and I happened to be off that day. I think I called in sick or had training or something like that going on, or it might have been just one of my regular days off. And two guys that I was with on multiple calls got into a shooting. And once I heard about it, everything in me, I was on my day off, but everything in me wanted to go to work. I wanted to go there. I wanted to be there to back my boys. And as silly as that may sound to some people, but that's how I felt. I literally wanted to throw down, stop everything I was doing, put on and get my gear and head to work. And I think it just has something to do with the one. I mean, there are many aspects to it, but the camaraderie that you build as while you're in law enforcement, there's very little like it. The closest thing you'll see is the military. And to think because you go through crappy stuff together, you're on dangerous calls together, and a lot of times they're the only ones you can really rely on. That's the only one. That's the one, your partner or whatever officer is there on that specific call, they are your lifeline. So I think you develop such a strong camaraderie. You can, especially if you're on some pretty crappy situations or in some pretty crappy situations together. You can develop a pretty strong bond. And I know there were times, by the grace of God, I never got involved in any shooting, but I've been in some pretty hairy calls and things that could have escalated easily. And I'm thankful for that. But even in that, you develop some strong bonds because you have people there when you're on a gun call, you're on a robbery call, which is basically when someone takes something by force or threat of force or violence, fear of injury, and a lot of times a gun is involved. You develop some really tight bonds. So even though I'm retired, I'm going on 8 years being retired, and that seems crazy in and of itself. 8 years going on that I've been retired, but there's still something. There's still that connection. Not to mention the fact that I do this, that I talk about these issues, and I still examine police shootings regularly, and I evaluate them, and people reach out to me and seek me for advice in how to deal with these shootings or what are my thoughts on it. So I'm still very much tied to the field, and I think to some degree I probably always will be. But man, I can't help but be moved. I say all that to say I can't help but be moved regularly when I see these things go down. They just do something to me. I get real emotional. When I was watching the funeral, when I saw that sea, I'm telling y'all, I saw a sea of cops in New York. I don't know how many were there. And I know they have, I saw on Wikipedia, so take that for what it's worth. I saw that Wikipedia said that there are 35,000 cops in the NYPD. And I'm going to look and see if I can find this video, this clip of all the officers there to support their fallen brother. Here we go. I don't know if it's showing up on your screen or not. Let me make sure it's pulled up. Let me add this here real quick. Got to see this. Powerful. Like really, it really moved me when I saw all this. See if I can make this bigger. Might be as good as I can get it, but here we go. Let's look at this. All a sea of blue. Look at this. They're paying their last respects. It's crazy. But I tell you, when I say there's nothing like it, there's very little like it. I was in the Army, and switch this up here. Ain't trying to look at that clown. Anyway, yeah, I was in the Army, and I loved my time in the Army. I was deployed to Desert Storm. Didn't really get involved in anything significant, but man, there's nothing like the bonds that I've developed over the years in law enforcement. Nothing like it. But there you see a bunch of officers just showing respect, just being there to support their brother who died in the line of duty senselessly, as are most police deaths. And what's up, brother? Biggest department in the world. Why is it I can't get your full comment here for some reason? When my dad worked there, they were at 35,000. I wonder if there's still that. You would think that the number would have increased by now. You would think that there would be more, but I don't know. At the same time, because how many people? What is it, like 10 million people in New York now? I know for a long time it was 8 million. I don't know what the number is right now, and I know right now we're dealing with a struggle trying to find qualified candidates, qualified officers to fill this job. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about today. One of the many topics, and it's all police related, but one of the many things I want to discuss today is just the current mindset when it comes to law enforcement, the mindset that we have as a nation, as a society. I talk about this routinely, but I still think it's something worth having a conversation about because we are dealing with the fallout of that. We're dealing with that every single day, the fallout of that. So let's jump in here and check out this video. A couple minutes long, so I'll probably comment here and there. I'll probably stop it and then offer my comments. Feel free to do the same. As this video progresses, this episode progresses of Code Red Conversation Show, comment in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I'll make sure I go back and check out the comments.
The streets of New York City to mourn slain officer Jason Rivera, killed in the line of duty 1 week ago.
We love you. Please always protect us. Your big brother's very, very proud of you. Mommy's proud of you. Papi's proud of you. Dominic is proud of you. We love you.
I said to you, wake up, baby. I'm here. The little bit of hope I had that you would come back to life just to say goodbye or say I love you one more time.
Yeah, just heart-rending statements. Officer Rivera and his partner are among 4 officers fatally shot in the line of duty this year alone. About 7 times as many have been injured by gunfire. In just the past 48 hours, 3 were wounded in this broad daylight shootout in Houston. Another shot in a chaotic encounter in Milwaukee in which the suspect stole the officer's squad car. And in St. Louis, a young police officer now clinging to life, shot in the stomach while pursuing an SUV believed to be connected to a murder.
Man, it just really makes me angry, honestly. Like, it really pisses me off, for lack of a better term, watching this and hearing about this. And we're going to have some political commentary here. And you're going to hear people chiming in, the same people. And I'm being preemptive. I haven't watched this full video, but some of the same people who like to act as if they care about the police, and you'll hear it from Biden and Harris down, all the way down, Pelosi, all of them. They'll be acting as if they really care about the cops, but then in the next minute, they'll take bad information, bad data, and they'll use it for political purposes. And it pisses me off because all these people care about is power. That's all they care about is power. They don't care about law and order. Everything that we're seeing now in our society, everything that we're seeing with the snatch and grabs, all the increase in crime going on across the country, the disrespect and the hatred towards the police, vastly unfounded. Let me make that abundantly clear. Vastly unfounded. But all of this foolishness that we're seeing is a result of these idiots. These idiots all on the political left primarily. I'm not totally exempting the Republican Party, and I don't always want to make everything about politics because we know there's always deeper root issues, and I always touch on those things. But when it comes down to the people who are in positions of power here in our country, it's the same people who take the Michael Brown case and they have their Michael Brown and freaking Alton Sterling and all these people. They bring their or Stephen Clark. They bring their parents to these political rallies, even though every one of them were justly shot. by the police, every one of them. But they know what'll happen. You talk about Michael Brown, you talk about Alton Sterling, you talk about Stephen Clark and Jacob Blake and Rayshard Brooks, and you talk about police brutality, and you stir up the Black community. You stir up the minority community. You stir up those people who are sympathetic to the plight and cause of the minority to get them to come out and make sure that you stay elected, and make sure that they vote for you. That's what they do. It is pure and absolute manipulation. That is all it is. And I pray to God on a daily basis that people will start to wake up and understand that you're being lied to. When you villainize the cops, when you villainize the police, when you try to defund, you try to abolish the police, nothing good comes from it. And what ends up happening? Those very communities that these people claim to care so much about, they're the ones that end up suffering. The Black crime rate goes up. It ain't happening in the suburbs or in these ritzy parts of town where a lot of these politicians live, where they're protected by all kinds of police and security. They don't have to deal with the repercussions of their bad policies or their bad politics, but Black folks do. Hispanic folks do. White folks who aren't making a whole lot of money do. Hard-working folks, the average everyday citizen who goes to work and comes home, and he's the middle-class citizen who's trying to make ends meet, they're the ones that suffer, whereas those folks sitting up there getting them fat checks and who are totally exempt from stupid, ignorant, behind policies, they don't care, because when it's all said and done, it's to stir people up, and it works every freaking time. And man, I'm so tired of it. And even crazier, there was a time when I believed this crap. There was a time where I believed this garbage. I used to honestly believe that the police were out there just hunting people down and mistreating Black folks all the time. I mean, there was a time where that was happening. The sad reality is, in American history, that's real. The sad reality is that's real. And we don't ever want to ignore that, because I'll be the first one on my channel to call out a bad cop. No shame in my game whatsoever. You do something stupid, you violate the law, you violate someone's rights, you deserve everything that you get. Everything that you get. Zero sympathy from me. But at the same time, we can't act like that is the plight of every law enforcement agency, blaming every cop for every shooting, automatically assuming them to be guilty. Oh, I'm so fed up with it, y'all. So fed up and so tired of it. I pray people start to wake up. All ethnic groups start to wake up and see what we're really dealing with. I apologize, y'all. I can get so wound up on this when I get going. What you got, brother? I think it was the DC BLM chapter that was upset because they called the NYPD officers heroes. I might get a little emotional today, honestly. So forgive me for that, y'all. But you go into someone's house, you respond to a call, a domestic situation, and you just go in there, you're doing your job. You understand that there are risks involved, but as an officer, you don't go in there with the mindset of, okay, I'm going to just lay my life down just to do the righteous thing. You want to go home. You have loved ones, you have friends, siblings, whoever they may be, who care about you, and you want to make it home every single night. And the mere reality of police work is that it is inherently dangerous. The vast majority of times, a cop will go to work and they'll come home and they'll spend their entire career and won't get involved in anything major. That's most cops, especially in smaller cities around the country. But in some places, the risks are that much higher. But this whole idea, this whole mantra that when you go out to become a police officer, that you knew the risks, just flippantly throwing that out there like it's insignificant. The fact that this individual is keeping your behind safe. And I say, and I'm talking as if I'm speaking to one of these BLM idiots. BLM is an evil terrorist group. That is real. That's exactly what I think. I have zero love for them. There may be some people in there who think they're doing the right thing, but you're misguided. But when you look at them as a whole and you look at how they respond when things don't go their way and when they threaten violence for political gain, that is the definition of a terrorist organization. Definition of a terrorist organization. But they get given a pass, and you'll turn on the NBA or the NFL or one of these other sports leagues, and you'll see these clowns having signs up there saying Black Lives Matter. Now, of course, obviously, we know that Black folks matter, just like white folks and brown folks and Asian folks and whoever. We know that. But I'm not going to sit up there and throw some banner up there because there's a greater meaning to that. It's the organization as a whole. That's what I'm talking about. The organization is evil, period. Manipulative, godless, all of that. Dealing in witchcraft. You don't believe me? Look it up. You don't believe me? Look it up. As a matter of fact, a brother of mine, good friend of mine, has got a podcast called The Hamilton Corner. And if you're not familiar with Abraham Hamilton and all the folks over at American Family Radio, get familiar with them. He did an episode on BLM in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, of his show. Former DA out of Texas. He works for American Family Association now and lives in Mississippi, I believe. And he's like the legal counselor or something like that. But he has a podcast. He has a show. Solid brother in the Lord. Solid dude. Good information. But he did an episode where he kind of went on in detail. I also believe he's a assistant pastor or a pastor at a church down there. And he did an episode exposing BLM for the evil group that they are, dealing in witchcraft and ancestor worship and all kinds of things. And you got so many Christians out there following behind these people. The whole say his name or say her name, that's all witchcraft related. Ancestor worship, all that kind of stuff. But so check that out. If I don't know if anybody who's watching is familiar with the Hamilton Corner, if you can find that episode and put it down in the comments, I would greatly appreciate it. And he had some clips that went pretty viral talking about it. But if you did Black Lives Matter, Abraham Hamilton, or the Hamilton Corner, it should be able to pop up. And when you get an opportunity, check that out. I just learned over what got me was when, and I'm gonna get back to the video clip, y'all. Bear with me, forgive me for that. But y'all know how I get when I get rolling on a topic. But when I saw that they had on their website, which they quickly took down, not quickly, but they took down after getting a lot of pushback. But when they had on their website that they want to disrupt the nuclear family, meaning a traditional father, mother, and child. They want to disrupt that. You want to disrupt the nuclear family, knowing that over 70% of Black kids are raised in single-parent homes, and the destructive force, the destruction that takes place in the life of a child when he is raised without a dad in the home. Now, let me make this clear. I'm not saying that a mom can't raise her child alone, but you are missing something. You are missing something if there's only one parent raising that child. That child is missing something. There are reasons why, if you do any research on the impact of a single parent home, when you see that the daughters are more likely to become pregnant, when you see that the children are more likely to suffer from mental health issues or depression issues, or when you see that the daughters are more likely to get pregnant, more likely to boy or girl, all the children more likely to get involved in drugs and violent crime, Boys are more likely to get arrested when they're raised in single parent homes. But yet you claim that you care so much for Black lives, but one of the main factors that is destroying the Black community, oh, you want to disrupt it. Man, don't miss me with the fact that you care about Black folks, BLM. You don't. You want money. You want political power. You want to promote a socialist Marxist agenda. That's what you want. You want to see the U.S. crumble, and you want some other regime to come along where the elites are on top. That's what you want. People are disgusting. Let me watch some of this video, a little more of the video, and then I'll get back to the comments. I appreciate y'all bearing with my little tirade there.
With us now, the former St. Louis County Chief of Police, Tim Fitch. He is now a county councilman. Chief, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Briefly, we're not going to give the name of the St. Louis police officer who was injured. We just want to know, Chief, do you believe that he is going to survive these injuries?
Well, I'll tell you, Trace, it sounds promising at this point based on all the information that I have heard. It was not promising when he was wheeled into Barnes Jewish Hospital, and those medical professionals there just did a tremendous job to save his life. But from what I understand, he's not out of the woods yet.
Our best to him, Chief, and his family. I just want to put this up on the screen because this is from the New York Times last summer, and I think it's very critical to read this. It says a survey of about 200 police departments then indicates that retirements were up by 45%, resignations by 18% in the period between April 2020 and April 2021 when compared with the preceding 12 months. You look at those numbers.
Look at that. Hold up. I don't know why it keeps doing that, but retirement's up. What did he say? 40-some%. We're already dealing with the reality that it's hard. First of all, in law enforcement, in order to have a qualified recruit, a qualified candidate, it is a difficult process. You have to be stringent on their criminal record. You have to be stringent and strict on their drug or alcohol uses or abuses. You want someone in there who actually has a little bit of common sense, who can react appropriately in the right setting when you're dealing with a stressful situation, a violent encounter or a dangerous encounter, or when you're dealing with someone who is mentally ill. You want someone who is qualified to be able to handle a situation like that. You just can't open the door and just let anybody in. So you're already going in there shorthanded, and you're already going in struggling, trying to find the right people. So then you add on top of that the fact that cops have been made to be public enemy number one pretty much since 2014 with the whole Trayvon Martin case, even though it had nothing to do with policing. But cops have been made to be public enemy number one for years. So now if you even want to look at, and we can't ignore the reality of the last 2 years, post George Floyd incident, all the rioting that took place, they took the long running show on TV, Cops, they took it off the air. Matter of fact, when I said Cops, a couple of days ago on Wednesday, when I had my live, when I was talking about there were certain people who were withholding information because they didn't want Black folks to look bad. I heard that the executive producers or directors, those people in charge of the TV show Cops, purposely doesn't show as many Black offenders on the show because they said that because I couldn't think of who it was. I thought it might have been MSNBC, but just when I said it, the light bulb went off in my head. Was that they wouldn't show as many Black offenders, criminals on Cops because they didn't want to promote the stereotype. You know, why not put the information out there? Why not film what you have and let people be wise enough to make their own decisions? One of the biggest issues, I believe, in the Black community is the fact that you have people over there tap dancing around the problems that we have. There are too many people who want to ignore or overlook or turn a blind eye to the problems in the inner city. And in the meantime, what's happening? Things are only getting worse. And then because they took the whole war on drugs, these clowns today, these politicians took the whole war on drugs and they spun it now to where it was like, okay, well, it was just used to lock up more black folks. Nope. Do your research, do some studying. And those of us who were around at that time, I was old enough to understand what was going on. There were cries. People were crying out to politicians, crying out to the police. Black folks in the inner city who were dealing with the crack wars that were going on were crying out for help because of the destructive nature of crack cocaine, the deaths that were taking place, the gang wars, all of that. It wasn't folks in there trying to act as if they were trying to hunt down black folks. They wanted harsh and stiff penalties. But now you fast forward it 30, 40 years later. Oh, well, they just used that. It was just used to lock up more black men. Man, I'm telling you, if you aren't willing to do your own research and your own studies, and all you do is go on the first couple of pages of Google or on Wikipedia or on YouTube, but that's all you do without digging deeper, you will be totally ignorant to the reality of what is happening in our society today. Totally ignorant. Let me get back to the video here and check out some of y'all's comments here shortly, soon after this video is over.
Chief, you now look at what many are calling a war on police.
Absolutely.
This is not going to help rebuild our police departments across the country.
Absolutely not. As those numbers are pretty staggering, we're not able to backfill those positions. I know just in my now former department alone, about 1,000 officer department, there's more than 75 vacancies right now. We're having very little interest in having individuals join our department. And I know that's going on around the country as well. This will continue to increase this lack of wanting to get involved in law enforcement. And it's really, there's a really good sole reason for this happening, and it's called reformed prosecutors. That's what we're seeing in the St. Louis metropolitan area and all around the country.
And we hear that again and again. And I point not just to this war on cops, targeting of police officers, but also respect level. And I point things out like during a vigil this week, Chief, for officers Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora, who died in the line of duty. During that vigil, 6 police cruisers had their tires slashed. I mean, it's just a
ridiculous
lack of respect we are seeing across the country.
That's true. And in St. Louis, our 2 officers that were tragically shot in the line of duty on Wednesday happened in Ferguson. My office is right outside the door where this shooting happened.
Yeah.
And really, this started in Ferguson. A lot of this started in Ferguson, as you remember, the Michael Brown situation. And I'll have to tell you that the situation has not improved since then.
Yeah. Lastly,
he said, or the lower third right there, police officer shootings up 50% year to date, 50% higher than they were last year. And you defund the police because you make them out to be the criminal mainly. And now after the crime rate starts to increase, you say, okay, let's put some funding back into the police department. And now let's go out and try to find good cops. But you have just destroyed the reputation of the police officer. You have just damaged the morale of the current regime or current set of cops out there. And you have people just saying, you know what, screw this, I'm out, I'm gone. And so we see this crime spike nationwide. And then these same people want to act as if they had nothing to do with it. You are the problem. These people are the problem.
Chief, I just want your take when you read things from this week from Black Lives Matter saying, just because police officers are shot does not make them a hero. I mean, what do you think when you read things like that around the media?
How could anyone see that video from Houston and not say those officers chasing this guy down weren't heroes? Remember, they had been wounded and they were still chasing this individual down. So to say that they're not heroes, that's just tone deaf is what that is.
Yeah, he nails it right there. Tone deaf. That's exactly what it is. Completely ignorant as to the truth. Let's check out some comments before we move on real quick. Yeah, I was getting a little fired up earlier. I appreciate you jumping in. Too kind. They're experts at manipulating the optics to magnify every incident. Oh my goodness, you nailed it. You hit it right on the head. They're masterful at it. That's what they do. They take any incident that, and I'm sure they have people out there who examine this and they like, how can we make, because the old canard by, was it can't remember his name, from Chicago. I can't remember his name, when he said not to let a crisis go to waste. That's it. That's what they do. That's what they do. We can't say you knew the risk to George Floyd. Oh my goodness. Yeah, if you say that, everybody's gonna jump on it. You're gonna get it from all sides, even though that makes far more sense. And to some degree, I say that anyway, because I said if you don't do the old Beretta theme, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. If you want to be safe from police harm, if you think the police are so bad, do the best you can not to do anything stupid. How about not committing any crimes? How about if you get stopped by the police, don't resist? How about not running? Common sense, things like that. But yeah, if you throw something out there like that, you'll get hit from every side. They're part of the movement for Black Lives, which is even worse. No question. No question. Karl Marx hated Black people. How ignorant can BLM be as they follow Marxism? Right. If they did any research, they would find out who he really was and how he really felt about minorities. BLM doesn't care. I listened to Abraham Hamilton's show and the Addisons. Great content, y'all. Aaron the Addisons, the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio. I tell y'all, check those folks out. I love them. I've met them. I've been on their show on each show a couple of times, and they put out some amazing content. Read Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. Excellent book, by the way. Excellent book. Black people are used by Soros and communism and the Democratic Party, which is they go hand in hand these days. Pure and utter manipulation. That's what we're dealing with. What's up, Ray? Less cops, defunding the cops, villainize the cops. Crime is out of control. Yep. Crime is out of control because the one group in our nation that does more to protect and save Black lives, the police, the one group has been villainized, has been made to be the enemy. Hey, what's up, brother? Rahm Emanuel, yes. That's it, Ted. Appreciate that. Rahm Emanuel said that. Never let a good crisis or never let a crisis go to waste. And they have been masters at it. And I think they always will be. I say it over and over again. I just really pray that people will start to wake up and see what's going on. With the poor job that Joe Biden is doing, you would honestly think people would start waking up. With the border being basically wide open, and I don't know how many have come through illegally. And with the economy being in utter chaos, more people dying from COVID while the vaccine is still is being passed around, and he said he was going to stop it, and the debacle in Afghanistan, and you got the mandates and the vaccine mandates and all this chaos and foolishness that this man's, and he claimed anybody who had any sense knew this man was going to bring anybody together. The political parties are way too split in order for any politician to bring anybody together. Only one that can bring folks together is the Lord, honestly. As divided as we are as a society. More black people have been killed by other black folks since Floyd died. Where's BLM or the race baiters? Nowhere to be heard. You don't see them protesting in Chicago the fact that their homicide rate is the highest it's been in 20 years. You don't see them down there talking about Black Lives Matter. Nowhere to be had. Nowhere. These people are a joke. Listen to the cops and what they tell you and what they tell you to do. That's it, brother. It's really simple. I say it all the time. It ain't rocket science. But yet you have people who act like it is. Like there's something belittling or dehumanizing to say that I'm going to comply when a police officer gives me a command to do something. Why not? Why not? Anyway, let me share another article with you. This is from the Washington Post, or excuse me, the New York Post. I haven't read it, but it had an interesting headline. I haven't read it yet, but I wanted to go through it with y'all and get your thoughts on it. Here's the real cost in hard numbers of those disastrous bail reform laws. So we'll work our way through this. Once again, comment down below in the chat what your thoughts are. This article is from just a few days ago, 21st of January. If the city's crime rate in 2019, obviously they're talking about New York, had stayed the same in 2020 and 2021, there'd be 301 more New Yorkers alive today and 1,900 fewer shooting victims. What happened? Bail reform. Wow. The legislature passed the disastrous reform in 2019 that went into effect January 1st of 2020, with a first effort to correct them taking effort that July 1st. New data from the state's Office of Court Administration clearly shows that the quote-unquote fix did not go nearly far enough. The data covers arrests made from July 1st, 2020 through August 30th, 2020. The first 2 months of the new law improved what prosecutors and police have been saying. The rise in crime is due to repeat offenders being released back onto the streets after arrest. I'll read that again. The rise in crime is due to repeat offenders being released back onto the streets after arrest. Like I said, when people start acting as if Black folks are perpetual victims and were never held accountable for the crimes that we commit, this is kind of nonsense that you get. Progressive advocates tout an analysis by the Albany Times Union that showed only 2% of defendants released under the new laws were, quote, arrested for a violent felony offense while their case was pending. That's technically true, but that's 2%. But that 2% statistic is irrelevant to the debate. And in any case, the TU is interpreting the numbers incorrectly because they worded it properly. It says only 2% of the defendants released under the new laws were arrested for a violent felony offense while their case was pending. What about after the case was pending? What about prior to the case? It's just like a play on words. Its analysis took all, I'm right down here, its analysis took all arrests statewide where the defendant was eligible for release under the new law. Over 100,000 cases and looked at let me read that again. Its analysis took all arrests statewide where the defendants were eligible for release under the new law. Over 100,000 cases and looked at rearrest rates for those defendants. Included in those 100,000 cases were first-time offenders charged with shoplifting, petty larceny, driving under the influence, trespassing, and every other misdemeanor arrest, as well as first-time nonviolent felony offenders. Yet these are cases where bail was very rarely set under the pre-reform bail law, absent very unusual circumstances. So far, what it looks to me is that they looked at all nonviolent charges. They may not even have examined a violent those violent cases. If you look at defendants arrested by felonies in just the first 2 months of the 2020 bail laws, again from July 1st, 2020 to August 30th, 2020, you see a far different story. And here's what the data show. And this is another point. This is what I mentioned earlier and was mentioned in the chat earlier. It's a manipulation of the facts. It's similar to when those advocates for abolishing the jail system, the prison system, and all this kind of stuff, or those seeking deep prison reform. And I'm an advocate for prison reform, but not in the way that a lot of people talk about, because I actually worked in the prison system. I actually worked in the correctional system, and I understand the ins and outs of it. And I think that there's too much of a lack of control, especially in the prison system. But it's like when people who try to claim that Blacks are arrested at a higher rate for nonviolent, quote unquote, I'll say in quotes, nonviolent drug offenses, and they use the federal system's numbers while completely ignoring the state system. Because if you look at the state system, you'll see that the vast majority of people who are locked up in prison are there for violent offenses. There is a very small, maybe a fourth or less of the prison population who's there for drug offenses, but well over 50%, well over half are there for violent offenses. Let's look at the numbers. So they take the data that's beneficial and helpful to them, and they put that out there and say, hey, look at this. Don't look at over here. Just look at this. This shows that what we're doing is good. Or this shows that there's some bias or mistreatment. Anyway, in New York, right here, in New York City, in that time period, 3,680 defendants were arraigned for felonies. Fully 70% of them, 2,564, had a prior or pending case at that time of arrest. 70% during that same time period. Among those 2,564, there were 2,401 pending cases and more than 11,539 prior convictions. So out of 2,500 people, roughly, there were over those same people who committed all these other crimes and problems. They had over 11,500 prior offenses. So what is that? Almost five offenses per individual if you look at those numbers. These were not first-time offenders, nor were they last-time offenders. OCA data shows 31%, right here, in case you lost track of where I'm at, 31% of these people were rearrested before their case was disposed. And note the qualifier, before their case was disposed. That number does not include arrest while awaiting sentence or after sentence. In fact, OCA initially included those arrests with the data, but then quickly corrected it, eliminating almost 25,000 rearrests, thereby reducing the rearrest rate. Once again, manipulation of the numbers, y'all. That's what we're dealing with, utter manipulation of the numbers. And the average everyday citizen, and I don't want to blame the average citizen, because you go to work, you take care of your family, you live your life, you don't want to bother anybody, and you assume that those people who are in positions of authority or sharing information, those media heads, are going to be honest with us. They're going to tell us the truth. But that's not the world we're living in, y'all. We're living in a world of propaganda. That's where we are. We're living in a world of propaganda, and we're living in a world where people want you to believe a certain way for power, political power, for political gain. Look at the Marxism. Just look at the history. Marxism, communism. They want to control the media sources and manipulate our thought. That's why you're hearing such backlash towards someone like Joe Rogan and other podcasters and simple people like me who are just trying to make an impact on social media with a small channel, I have to deal with so much pushback from big tech, YouTube, Google, all them folks, Facebook, Instagram, threatening to take some of my stuff down if they don't like what I have to say. That's the world we're living in. We're living in a world of propaganda. And that's just not me talking nonsense. That's just the reality of it. Let's take the example. It just popped into my head. Excuse me, a little burp. The incident that took place where the quote unquote self-professed transsexual but actually sexually assaulted a girl, or at least a couple of girls, in a bathroom, and how that school and the media suppressed that information. They kept it quiet. The dad went into a school board meeting and went off, and they made him look stupid. They kicked him out and had him arrested and all this kind of stuff. But it took the Daily Wire and other more conservative or center media sources to investigate this information for it to be made public. And even in the verbiage that they use, that CNN and MSNBC and these other entities, media entities use, they would say a boy dressed in girls' clothing sexually assaulted someone, even though he claimed to be transsexual. I say that because it's scientifically impossible. But that's another conversation for another day. But he made that claim, but then when that information got out to the public, they purposely worded it in a way to where it wouldn't be so offensive to those in that community. It's all about manipulation, y'all. I'm telling you, if you need to start waking up. You need to start paying attention to what's really going on in this world. Before you know it, our country will be completely, radically different, and you'll be wondering what the heck went on as long as you toe the line, or you fall in line with the popular, or at least I can't even say popular, with the acceptable opinion, you'll be fine. But if you dig deeper and you start talking about something that they deem controversial, good luck. Good luck with that. Let me see here. Let me check out some of the comments here. What you got, Larry? My son arrested a dude from GLA, actually cited and released from booking. Grand larceny auto. Next day, arrested him again for grand larceny auto. So he arrested him, actually cited and released the guy, and released from booking. I guess that's what happened in booking. Next day, arrested him again for grand larceny auto. Again, cited and released. Suspect hasn't made one court date. I'm telling you, that one guy, political commentator on that clip I was showing y'all from Fox News, he nailed it. He says you have these reformist district attorneys who are just opening the door and letting people out. They're just letting folks out, no consequences. And they want to deflect once things really get bad. That's what they want to do. It's crazy. They're just utterly crazy. Anyway. All right, y'all. But I'm going to keep my show short today. I appreciate y'all joining me. I could have went on longer, but it's just really sad and disheartening, this whole thing. If y'all got any comments, I'll wrap up the show by addressing any comments. If anybody has anything else to say, put your comment in the chat. We can talk about it a little bit, and then I'll let y'all go on about your week, start your weekend. They take him to booking for a class 2 felony, so low-level felony. He's in San Diego, right, your son? Man, that'd be yeah, you got to hit me up, man, and fill me in on what he's been going through, because he popped in my head a couple of days ago with all the craziness. My sister lives out in San Diego, and she was telling me just how ridiculous things are getting down there. And that's pretty much all through SoCal, but Hey, appreciate you, brother. Yeah, man, I do this every Tuesday every Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 4 Central and 5 on the East Coast. Everything seems to be running a little slow today for some reason. Maybe because everybody's jumping on. Yeah, man, hit me up, bro. Hit me up. Seriously. I'm sure he's got a few more than just one. It's a class. Hey, man, because I know last I knew you were Leonard, I know you were applying for the cop position. I don't know how that went. We got to talk. But are you still doing corrections? Because man, I plan on going into deeper detail in some corrections related fields or topics. And over the next couple of weeks, it's not corrections related, but I plan on doing a deeper dive into the Michael Brown case, the Stephen Clark, and the Alton Sterling shootings, because there's a narrative that's promoted out in the public, out to the world, and then there's a reality that the body cam footage shows, the helicopter or air unit show, and the DA report, and even other eyewitness testimonies. So over the next couple of weeks, I plan on doing at least one a week. I'm not sure who I'm going to start with, but stay tuned for that, y'all. And hopefully I'll get my announcement out a little earlier. Today was a hectic day. I should have put the announcement out last night, but I messed around and got caught up doing some other things. And then earlier today, my daughter wanted me to do a little research, or she's trying to write a little book. And I'll let y'all know about it as time goes on. I'm working on a book too. I'm working on a book and a video course. So once that's up, it's almost done. My ebook is almost done. And the ebook or the video course is going to be based on the ebook. But once those are done, I'll let y'all know. And hopefully y'all do me a favor, help me out promoting what it is I'm trying to do. Because when it's all said and done, in the grand scheme, in the big picture, my desire is to save people's lives, to save lives on all sides. I want people to understand that cops aren't the enemy that they're made out to be. I want people to understand that the average everyday citizen isn't necessarily the enemy. I want folks to know that the media is manipulating you to believe a certain narrative. I really want folks to understand that. So everything I'm working on, or a large percentage, a good majority of the topics I'm working on, the ebooks and this channel and my speaking engagements that I'm working on, my presentations, it's all with the same mindset. It's all with the same desire to ultimately save lives. If we can stop people, and I made a video that deals with this. If you go check out, matter of fact, jump on over, y'all, when you get a chance, when we're done, not right now, but when we're done shortly, hop on over and check out my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go over and subscribe and start watching some of my content. Because regardless of where you stand on the issue as related to policing, I think you'll get a pretty good education. Because I go deep. I'll have a short video. I make plenty of shorter videos, but I also have videos that are my lives that go an hour, hour and a half. And I dig deep into topics, controversial topics where I get called the Uncle Tom and the bootlick and all that kind of stuff. And I honestly don't care about all that. Because if I can get one person to see the truth and open their eyes, it's all worth it. All the ridicule, all the mockery, I don't care about all that. If I can save a life and have people see the truth behind all the lies, it's all worth it. It's all worth it, y'all. Inside joke. And what you got there, Maxie? I agree 100%. Hold on. Why is it not popping up? There we go. The media is the enemy. I thoroughly agree with that. Mainstream media is not to be trusted. I always tell people this. A few years ago, I would, during the 2016 is when I really started waking up. I used to watch the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer every day, pretty much every day. I used to love that show. But then during the election, and I was not even close to a Trump supporter. But during the election, if you go back in my old post back in 2015, 2016, man, I clowned that dude all the time. But during that cycle, I started seeing CNN start to manipulate the data, the information, start to manipulate stories. And slowly but surely, I started waking up and realizing that these people cannot be trusted. They were lying about the information that they saw. Because I would click over from their channel and watch Fox or watch some channel online or a news story online, and I would see a completely different. I would see the whole thing, and I saw it for the whole story. But they purposely would withhold information, cut video clips out of a. They would take one short video clip out of a 10-minute conversation and then say that this is basically what he said. So untrustworthy. Now, I don't even waste my time watching those guys. NTD News, Epic Times, I get the actual physical paper coming to my house once a week, and I check out their website. I read and check out the Daily Wire, Breitbart. Who else do I listen to? There's another one that's just slipping my mind right now, but I don't have anything to do with mainstream media sources. I watch people like Tim Pool online, and there's another one, One American News. I'll watch them sometimes, but the main ones I watch is the NTD News and Epic Times. I love their work. I love their investigative work. They dive deep into controversial topics. They dive deep into the COVID, into the growing China problem. They dive deep into all the stuff associated with the virus and the origins, if I could talk, the origin of the virus. They go deep into all these different topics, and I really, really appreciate them. I watch very, very little Fox News, very little. I used to watch Tucker more consistently, but just lately, I've just been too busy. I don't dislike the guy, but I just don't always watch him. Just been too busy working on my own projects, trying to build Code Red. And speaking of building Code Red, if you guys would be kind enough to share my content, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. The more people hear about what it is I'm trying to do, the better. And the hope is that ultimately my channel will start to take off. Last year was kind of a funky year with my mom passing, and it kind of threw me off. But over the last few weeks, last couple of months, I really started getting back on track, trying to put out more content. So if you could support me in that, I would greatly appreciate it by sharing some of my videos. Much love here. And lastly here, one more comment, and like I said, everything's moving so dang slow. The heck? I left the corrupt demonic democratic media 40 years ago after growing up in Chicago and experiencing the corruption. Wow. I would love to hear your story, honestly. I'd love for you to share it sometime. That'd be kind of cool. But again, y'all, I appreciate y'all being here, joining me for today. It is the weekend, and I have some other projects and content that I'm working on, so you'll be hearing about that shortly. And as always, I appreciate all that y'all do, coming out and joining me and hearing me go on my rants and my tirades about the current state of the world. When it's all said and done, y'all, my ultimate hope is in Christ. And if it wasn't for him, I would really be, I don't know what I would do. I would be really, I think I would be very fearful. But I know ultimately he wins. And I'm thankful for that. And so I'm wrapping it up. And as always, in the meantime, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation. See y'all next week, Lord willing.